Welcome to BZen TV. I'm your host, Britt Madrid, and tonight's BZen Boss Talk guest is renowned international dating and relationship coach, Renee Slansky. With over 4.2 million views on her popular YouTube videos and the #1 dating blog in Australia, she's the go-to love expert for numerous media outlets and dating platforms, including ABC, Daily Mail, Huffington Post, eHarmony, and Plenty of Fish. When Renee's not acting as an advisor in the press, she's working one-on-one with women like you and me, fulfilling her mission to help others break generational toxic cycles, impact the dating culture, lower divorce rates, and bring a revolution of love education to the world. She's here to talk about the most common hurdles people face trying to find and keep a fulfilling romantic relationship, like knowing your worth, recognizing your self-sabotaging behaviors, and communicating your standards. Renee, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
I had so many questions for you when I was thinking about what we could talk about, and so many of our viewers and listeners like to ask about love and relationships. I feel like it's one of the biggest things that impacts our happiness, and it can even get into our self-esteem and just our ability to really be our best selves, right?
I think, what the funny thing is that we assume relationships are just romantic most of the time. Where relationships and knowing how to do relationships properly, whether they're romantic or family or friendship or work, it's a life skill. And we forget that. And then we stumble through relationships, or we stumble through dating, even the relationship with yourself. Knowing how to harness that properly is something that literally has a ripple effect that will set you up for life. And that's why I think it's something that we need to be more aware about. Hence why I'm so passionate about love education.
Right? Like, we don't learn this in school, but we should.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm trying to change that. I am trying to change it. I'm trying to bring that into schools.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yeah. That's like my main mission. The main reason why I got into all of this was because we need love education in schools if we want to break the generational cycles that are happening with divorce, with crisis identity, with suicide, all of that. We need to start young. And so we have sex education in school, which let's be honest, it's so basic.
Right.
You don't even know half of the stuff. When you become an adult, you're like, oh, I didn't know that could happen.
Right.
And so I think love education, as I said, it's not just about, okay, well, obviously you're not teaching teenagers how to date. It is self-esteem. It's relating to your parents, friends, family, setting yourself up to have a healthy partner relationship later on in life as well.
Totally. And I feel like a lot of the time, like you said, we stumble through. You're so wonderful and authentic in your videos on YouTube, where you'll admit you're like, I made some of these mistakes, and when I'm watching you, I'm like, me too. So you're so relatable. It's great to see someone who's, kind of been through it all and really speaking from experience. A lot of this self-sabotaging behaviors and things like that. I would love for us to get into that a little bit for our single ladies out there who are looking for love and, dating and trying to figure out who's right for them. What is some of that foundational advice that you would give them to help them kind of get started with a really great mindset? Yeah.
So I think, obviously, we're in a culture where we have access to lots of dates, right? Dating apps are they're one of the biggest avenues of technology at the moment, which is just pulling in the most revenue. And that just goes to show how many people are hungry for love and attention. And the thing is we're assuming that access to dates equals access to healthy relationships or healthy love. And so we go in there with this expectation that, okay, I'm on this app because I can be, and because I want to be able to find love. And then we stumble around without having any sort of love education or any sort of foundations first, without fully knowing what our own patterns are, maybe not even knowing exactly what it is that we want, hence why we can't recognize it or identify it when it comes along. Right. We're operating from a system of convictions that have been shaped by our childhood, which have been negative. It's setting us up for self-sabotaging. And so we're blind dating, and blind dating, not as in you're going on a random date, but we're literally going out there like this going, I've got no idea what I'm doing.
Totally.
And we have a desire. The desire doesn't go away. It's what we need to do with that desire to direct that energy in such a way that you get success in love and that it is sustainable.
Do you feel like the dating apps sometimes lead to more things like, breadcrumbing behaviors, or ghosting becomes a little bit easier because of technology. Because I have a lot of girlfriends who are dating right now and going through this emotional, just their self-esteem, it gets really damaged by these things happening again and again.
Yeah, I think definitely dating apps have removed a certain amount of accountability because we're not actually meeting that person face to face. We can just block them. We can just get off the app if we want. I mean, gosh, I've done that in the past, right?
Right.
Dating apps also, and just nowadays with technology, with like everything's disposable. The latest iPhone lasts for like a year and then everyone's like, oh, quick, we need a new one. It's like, it's not broken.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it. But we have this mentality that we need to always be seeing the next thing instead of actually fully investing and seeing the full potential of what it is in front of us. And because we know we have choices out there through dating apps, because literally we can see them, it's hard to actually go, okay, well, I am going to see where this is going and I'm going to give it my best. And I'm actually going to be accountable to what is respectful and honorable instead of just ghosting someone or running away. Right. That's harder to do. And we are lazy. That's why we get put in this situation where we're either dating people or we find ourselves doing behaviors that maybe we wouldn't have done in the past because of the influence of social media, technology, society in general, and lack of accountability and extra choices out there.
Right. So if someone keeps getting ghosted or is, going through that kind of dating burnout because of these apps and just all the things you just described, what is your advice for them? Do you think they should take a little break, a little breather? Should they reassess? Should they get a coach? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that one of my favorite sayings is frustration is an opportunity for revelation. If you're frustrated about something, that is a sign. And that sign is trying to tell you something that what you're doing right now isn't working. Your frustration is there because your level of expectation isn't actually being met. Now, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling fatigued by dating, absolutely take a break. You should not be feeling fatigued by dating. You should not be exhausted by love and dating. And that to me is an indication that you are either, doing the wrong thing or you're dating the wrong person. It's only the two reasons why we really struggle in love. And if you are operating from that place of lack or fear, you're going to continue to attract that back. So you need to be able to take a break and be okay with that. A delay is not a denial. Taking a break doesn't mean that you're going to miss out on the love of your life. It's simply understanding where a boundary needs to be set in order to set you up for what it is that you ultimately want.
Oh my gosh, yes, preach it. That is so good, so good. In your work, you talk a lot about self-worth and drawing those boundaries with people and setting your standards. What are your thoughts on people who are kind of lost because they're starting to wake up and realize, okay, I don't think my standards are high enough. They're seeing these patterns repeat. What can people start doing to get those standards up to where they're healthy and it's not over the top, like not narcissistic, but it's not undercutting them and hurting their self-esteem?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is awareness, definitely. If you're noticing that your standards are either too low or too high, at least you've got a point of, okay, why am I struggling here? And I think we can be so fearful of, falling behind, when in reality, if we're aware of why, it gives us a starting point for the how. And the how is basically the strategy. Now, because we're not taught this by parents or friends, this is why I guess dating courses, dating coaches, love education has become something that people realize now they actually need in order to be able to set themselves up. Because we got the dating app, so we got the access to the people, but now we're kind of struggling with the in-between part. I think an objective opinion is always best, because your girlfriends can tell you one thing and they're always going to be a bit biased.
Right. Sometimes it makes it worse because they kind of like get you hyped up and they affirm everything. And then you can end up going the opposite way and ruining a relationship that maybe just needs a little bit more nurturing. Right?
Yeah, sure. And I'm really seeing a trend at the moment with the whole high value woman thing is, I think it's amazing that women are finally realizing their worth. And it's something that I will always teach at the core of everything that I do teach. However, I'm finding that high value is starting to turn into high maintenance for some women out there, because they've gone from self-esteem to self-entitled.
Okay.
And I've seen it in a few social media posts and accounts and things where it's like, for instance, sayings like, if he doesn't do this, then dump him. And it's like, well, hang on a second. What are you actually doing as well? Like, it's not just a one-way street here. Yes, men do need to step up, but women do as well. Like, this is a partnership. And we live, unfortunately, in a time where it's all become a little bit toxic, where this sense of empowerment has turned into entitlement, and women are forgetting, hang on, if you want a king, you have to be a queen yourself. If you want to be able to attract a man that is going to give to you, what are you also giving him? It has to be equal here. Otherwise, it's always going to be a one-way relationship. He's going to see you as high maintenance. Then he's going to pull back. Then you're not going to feel fulfilled. And it just becomes this, toxic sort of cycle.
Yeah, it seems more like a competition than a real loving flow back and forth. So what are some of those like queen habits that you think people can start to employ as far as like around their communication and the way they look at things?
Yeah. So I think that, a high value woman is a woman who first understands her worth, with that doesn't necessarily have to always feel her worth, because if we just base things off how we feel, we'll have days where we feel amazing and other days where we feel crap, right? If we can have a healthy standard to work to, like I said, that objective opinion. I mean, even when I finally got my breakthrough, I went and saw a counselor because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to break this cycle, and my family certainly weren't able to tell me. My girlfriends were telling me things left, right, and center. So having someone on the outside who was able to give me a neutral, healthy point to work from means that you've always got something to come back to. So on days that you're not feeling high value, on paper, hang on, I am high value because this is the standard, even if I don't feel it. Boundaries are massive. It's something that honestly fix 90% of the problems in your life. Be educated on boundaries. It's not just a matter of, I'm going to tell him no. No, you have to understand why he also struggles with boundaries and why you're attracting certain people. There's some amazing books out there, and one of them that I really recommend is called Boundaries. It's a New York Times bestseller, and it's by Henry Cloud. I love giving out any information that I find, because this isn't about trying to keep everything to myself and you need to come to me so I can tell you. It's like, I want to impact the world here, and these men and women need to know that there is so much available to you to be able to set you up to be a high value woman who actually lives a lifestyle with that conviction that she is worthy of a magnificent love with herself and with whoever it is that she wants to be with. Ultimately, it's not about, I have to have a certain status to be high value, or I can't be, I'm divorced, so therefore I'm not worthy, or this and that, like these labels that we're putting on ourselves. High value woman is understanding she is a treasure, and a treasure is something that needs to be protected so that it isn't tarnished, so it isn't stolen, so it isn't broken.
Renee, that's so beautiful. You're giving me goosebumps, making me like tear up. Like, that's so beautiful. If everybody felt that way, without their outside circumstances impacting their self-esteem or their feelings of worth, I think that would be beautiful. And when you're in that state of mind, you can also give, right? Because you feel good, you feel secure, so you can give and receive. And it's not this demanding energy because you feel like not enough. I think that might be the root.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being in that place of overflow, that's the way I like to think of it, where you're not coming from that place of scarcity or fear. You're coming from that place of abundance where you have enough to be able to give. So you give what is necessary, with also in mind of where boundaries need to be put in a relationship. And because of that, you're attracting the same giving back. High value woman isn't just about giving. Obviously, it's also about receiving. There has to be that ebb and flow, because sometimes I see so many women who just give because they're able to, but then they don't know how to receive. Again, that's a boundary thing. But definitely, it also brings a lot of freedom. I must say, like when you arrive at that point, and this is the point that I arrived at when I went from 10 years of just like totally sucking at relationships and just narcissistic men and you name it. I'd been there, done that.
Been there.
Oh gosh, I wrote the book. But I arrived at this place where I was like, I would rather be single for the rest of my life than ever settle for second best. And that gave me so much freedom to choose only the best, because I realized that I was okay if I didn't have anything at all.
I can so relate to that. That was the same thing when I met my husband. I had just been through one of the worst narcissistic relationships of my life. And I really came out the other side feeling like I'm just going to focus on me.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm worthy. I know I'm worth more than that. I know that now I want to focus on the kind of people that I do want to be with, and it would be great if other women didn't have to go through that, which is why I think people should watch your YouTube videos, learn more about boundaries and all these things, because it can really prevent that from having to happen. Yeah. But if you've been there, then you know what we're talking about, because it does shift your energy. And then I ended up marrying the love of my life. And I feel like it's just totally different than any other relationship I've ever had. It's just different. I can't even compare,
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, it's not like that person, your husband heals you, but it's definitely like the cherry on top once you've done the healing, and then he comes along and he just adds to it. And you realize that, every other crap heartache that you experienced before, it's almost like your brain and mind and body forgets that, because you've arrived at this place of wholeness, and then you've had even extra value added on top. And it's so worth the wait. But you're right. Like, we don't have to keep going through all these battles if we don't choose to. You shouldn't have to go through 50 heartbreaks until you find the one. It doesn't have to be that way. And I guess that's why I get so frustrated sometimes as a coach, because there's so much that people could do to make their life easier. But obviously they need to have the desire to be able to do it.
Right. So what are some of those things, those habits that you see people doing that you wish you could just be like, okay, please stop doing this? Like, is there anything that comes to mind that maybe our viewers can be like, okay, I do that, I need to stop?
Things like being intimate too soon, and then getting really disappointed because then the guy doesn't want to commit to them, or attaching too early on, attaching expectations, attaching physically, emotionally, mentally, without actually knowing who that person is, and then going, oh, after 3 dates, why doesn't he call me back? And I've already, I already have so much that I want to be with him. It's like, you don't know this person. Right. I think, again, we're a fast-paced society, and so slowing the pace down really frustrates a lot of people, but it is key to understand somebody's character. And we forget that, okay, well, what is, let's say, 3 years of trying to find the one as opposed to 50 years of spending it with the right one? We've got to put that into perspective, and we get so caught up in the current battle that we're in, or what we've experienced in the past, that we forget that we have a whole future ahead of us. And as long as we're taking control of what we can in the present in a way that it is smart, dating smart, not dating hard, actually thinking about who we're aligning with, instead of just assuming that, attention equals the right intentions, which it doesn't. I think that's where things become easier, when we go into dating with a sense of, okay, I'm going to guard my heart. I'm not going to build a wall and block people out, but I am going to guard my heart, and I'm going to pace myself, and I'm going to give myself time to actually get to know this person, because that would actually honor me as a woman and help me be set up to be able to receive the relationship I ultimately want.
Oh my gosh. Yes. 100%. That's an amazing mindset to have. As far as like, you talked about the difference between someone who's giving you attention and someone who has the right intentions. Are there any things that you advise people to look for to be able to tell the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So
like, oh, I got the tips.
Let me give you the list.
Yeah, give it.
One of the things, and this is one of the things that probably like a lot of your listeners are experiencing, or have experienced, is when a guy reaches out to you, and so you're getting the attention, he's sending you messages, but it's inconsistent. And then you're left in this point of, okay, does he like me? Does he not like me? We went on one date, now I haven't heard from him, and you're constantly investing more than him. He's giving you attention when it's convenient for him, but obviously there's no right intentions behind that, because someone who is interested in you will be consistent.
Wow. Okay. That is a big one. And I feel like a lot of the time, and I used to do this too, and a lot of my girlfriends, when you have to start like analyzing, why didn't he text me back? Or why was his text like one word answers? Like when we start analyzing with our friends, I feel like that's always like, oh no, red flag. Like we shouldn't even have to get to that point, right?
I think it's a red flag either way. So
Okay.
it's either, yeah. So I have a lot of clients who have high anxiety. So sometimes they overthink things.
Yep.
So sometimes a guy can literally just be busy, but we're like, oh my gosh, why haven't I heard from him? Blah, blah, blah. Right. That's why we need to, when we date, we need to have space to evaluate.
Mhm.
Right. That's why, like, even if you really like someone, don't go and see them like 5 times in the first week, because you're not going to have time and perspective to work out, okay, are they love bombing me? Is this someone that is consistent? Blah, blah, blah. That's why I say setting the pace is really important. For example, I actually say to my clients, for the first month, you should only be seeing each other once a week for the first month.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. See, these are the guidelines I feel like when you're out there in the wild dating, these are the things you can anchor to that can help you to be like, okay, I can maintain perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the stuff, again, that, there's logic behind it. It also reinforces boundaries. And as I said, it sets you up. In month 2, you should be upping it to maybe 2 times a week. By month 3, it should be flowing and a lot more natural. Month 3 is usually, it goes either way or the other. He either wants to continue to invest and it turns into girlfriend-boyfriend relationship, or he pulls back and it doesn't work. That's why I also recommend not being obviously physically intimate with someone too soon as well. The main reason why for women is because when we sleep with someone, a chemical gets released in our brain called oxytocin. And oxytocin is the attachment chemical. Right. So we become attached to that person even if we don't want to, which makes it harder to be able to evaluate their character and step back if you need to, or realize, hang on a second, I deserve more, I should end this.
Yes, I think that's such great advice. It just kind of like allows you to make those decisions from a good place. So you can take care of yourself along the way, and it doesn't have to become, so stressful or traumatizing if it doesn't work out.
Exactly.
I love that. And then as far as like people who are already in a relationship, if you're already there, of course, just because you find the one, it doesn't mean that you can stop showing up as your best self, or that you don't still need to learn new skills and keep improving, right? So what are some things with couples that you feel are just really important things that people need to remember when they're actually with that love of their life and wanting to nurture the relationship?
I think, the first thing that I will say is that don't ever stop dating your partner or your husband or your wife. And when I say dating, I don't necessarily mean like have a date night once a week, because even that can turn a little bit monotonous. Think about it when you first started dating, that you were always on your best behavior. You were trying hard. You put that extra effort into trying to win them over, whether it was affirming your man, because men respond really well to words of affirmation, whether it was flirting, like don't stop flirting. I still flirt, with my husband, and we've been together for 7 years, right? Whether it is, simple things like, okay, let's spend some quality time together. It doesn't necessarily have to be 3 hours like you would on a date. It's more about, let's actually have a conversation where we're having eye to eye. Our phones are put aside, because this is how we would treat each other if we were first trying to win each other over. We'd be like totally trying to like make the other person feel good. And I don't think that should go away. Now that obviously takes conscious awareness, because it's so easy to get into a routine, to get comfortable with each other. I will say another thing, intimacy. I think once you've been in a relationship for a long time, there's obviously a difference between sex and intimacy. The intimacy increases in the way of you just have your own little language, especially if your if your relationship's healthy, like you just love each other and it's such a deep love that you don't need frequent sex, right? As opposed to when you first start dating, you're just like crazy for each other and it's a lot of lust, right? But I think that because of that, if you're not careful with not actually being physically intimate with them and actually having, sexual intercourse, it can actually get too much into that routine. Then, you can both get cranky and little things kind of slip in. A relationship doesn't break down overnight. It breaks down over time. It's like rust. When rust gets in, it corrodes it from the inside out. Or it's like water. You don't notice all the bubbling of the paint on the outside until it's too late. And the problems actually started right in before, when the plumbing broke in the middle. And then it's usually like you're trying to repair things. So it's about prevention, not adaptation. And if you live consciously in your relationship every day, you should be able to enjoy your relationship even through the hard seasons and get to a point where it is easy. It should be easy.
I like that it should be easy. Like, of course, you have to invest and work on things, but
Yeah.
if it feels good most of the time and easy and affirming and joyful and loving, like that's what we all want, right?
Yeah. And that's how it
So
should be.
that is how it should be. So Renee, for everybody who wants to keep growing and learning from you, just the things that you said on this show, I mean, so helpful, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom. But you have something called the Flourish Project now where people can actually do a monthly program with you. Will you give us some details on that?
Yeah. So the Flourish Project is my little baby that I had a dream for probably about 6 years ago, I think. And it was to make love education affordable to women all around the world, because dating coaching can be quite expensive. Coaching programs, they are an investment. Um, and some people feel like, well, I can't afford that. And I don't think that healthy relationships should be just for the rich. I think that it should be something, again, that people can access at a price that maybe costs the same as what, buying your coffees a month would cost, things that we spend money on that we don't even count. And so my Flourish Project is a combination of group coaching plus lessons, one lesson and one task every month to keep you focused on and accountable to be able to move forward. Plus I throw in thousands of dollars of bonuses in there, like meditations, affirmations, screensavers. I've categorized a whole lot of videos. So if people are lost, they can go there if they're in long distance relationships. There's so much in there. And it's really just done out of a place of heart for me, of just, again, wanting to bring love education to the world, break those generational cycles. So yeah, that's what I've launched. And that's what I really want to be able to grow community wise. And I guess it be the place to go to in order to be able to set yourself up for love and happiness.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is so exciting. I feel like this is a movement that you've started.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I'm so excited for us to be able to join and have all this access to these great programs and things that can really help us to, stay mindfully aware. There's so many times when we'll read a great book or we'll hear someone like you speak, but then we want to apply it and we don't feel like we have all the tools. So I love that you're providing something that we can access regularly to really start using it like in the day-to-day reality.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like for me, I'm a really practical person and a really practical coach. I'm not like fluff and like, all this sort of stuff. It's like, no, this is your life. This is your life. This is your love life. Like, don't settle for second best. And if you wanted to actually be everything that it can be, there has to be some level of responsibility of doing what you can do, and that's why I provide the tools so that people can step into that and then fully step into their full potential.
Yeah. Like if you go to the gym and work out, or you go to therapy or clean your house, all of these things that we do to like have a better life. What is more important than our love life? Right? I mean,
I know.
I'll pay attention to that one too. That might bring you the most happiness. So Renee, thank you so much for coming to the show. We hope to have you back. And I'm sure everybody's just going to love what you've had to say. I can't wait to get all of their feedback. So thank you again. Thank you for joining.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next time on March 4th. Be sure to follow us on social media in the meantime.